it's Sharon. Happy first spooky video of the season, and of course with my luck I am sick, so if I sound a little bit crusty, it is because your girl has a cold. Don't worry, I tested negative for Miss Rona, but we're still sounding a little crusty. Either way though, I think this video is like perfect for if you're sick like me, because it is my October/Halloween watch list for 2021. This is not the first time I've done this video. I did it last year, and I think the year before if I'm not mistaken. Either way, we're doing it again, but this time we're shaking it up. We're not just doing Netflix, we're doing a lot of other streaming services like HBO Max, we're doing Hulu, Amazon Prime, and Disney Plus. So lots of Halloween content, because I know we got lots of streaming services, especially after Miss Rona, we were locked in our houses forever. But anyways, if you guys want to see more videos like this, give us a thumbs up and let me know in the comments below. Make sure you're following my Instagram, my Twitter, my TikTok, so you have a save my videos, get a chance to be in them, and even get to be shout out of the day. But enough about that. Go grab your snacks, go grab your Halloween candy if you already have some, and go grab your pen and notepad so you can write these down or just pull them up on your computer or whatever. Let's get into this. So the first one I'm going to start with is Amazon Prime, and honestly this list is a mix of stuff I have seen and I love to just watch around this time, or stuff that I have not seen but I want to see around this time. So off of Amazon Prime, I want to watch are just the classic Universal monster movies, and that includes Creature from the Black Lagoon, The Wolfman, The Invisible Man, which I actually have seen The Invisible Man. There's Young Frankenstein, just Frankenstein, and then Dracula. And I do want to throw this in there though, what sucks about Prime is sometimes they have movies, series that are included in Prime, and sometimes you have to rent them, and also some that can be found on Amazon Prime can be found on Hulu or on HBO Max or another streaming service, so keep that in mind as well. Another classic I'm throwing in here is Beetlejuice. The first time I ever watched Beetlejuice was actually in 2020. That was my first time ever watching Beetlejuice, and I loved it all the way leading up until the actual introduction of Beetlejuice. I have to get used to literally Beetlejuice himself, but it's still on the list. Next is Psycho, and Psycho is a franchise that has 4 movies. Psycho is a scary movie, but this is actually no, it is my favorite scary movie plot ever. So if you haven't heard of Psycho, maybe you've heard of Bates Motel, which is next on the list. Bates Motel and Psycho are basically both about this man, Norman Bates, who lives with his mother, and he, I don't want to spoil it, but let's just say he gets very obsessed with his mother. And actually, I have a Zodiac serial killer series, right? And I talk about Ed Gein, my Virgo serial killer, who is actually the person that inspired Psycho/Bates Motel. So if you want to kind of like see what it's like, definitely go check that video out. This is probably one of my favorite movies in general. It is Warm Bodies. Basically, a girl falls in love with a zombie. Love it. Can't be me, but still. Of course, another classic is just Forensic Files, and apparently Forensic Files is on Netflix as well. So if you're into forensic studies and cases and just like true crime and stuff like that, this is a great show to binge. Another show I really want to watch is Inside the Mind of a Serial Killer, because I mean, need I say more? Of course, gotta throw in this classic, Ghostbusters. We all know Ghostbusters, and if you don't, I'm sorry that you've been living under a rock for your entire life. This show I have mixed feelings about. It is American Horror Story. So American Horror Story is a little too sometimes gory and graphic for me, and even terrifying, I'm not gonna lie, but I have seen 2 seasons, and one of those seasons was Hotel. I really do enjoy Hotel because it is pretty much inspired by H.H. Holmes, which is another serial killer that I have done a video on, so definitely go check that out. I definitely recommend that season in specific, even though it is very, very gory. So this one, proceed with caution, but if you're into that, it's all Gucci. I'd say Carrie is a pretty solid movie. It is a little bit more on the scary side, but it's basically like what goes wrong once you bully a girl and bad things happen. Another scary movie that I'm surprised I'm even throwing this in here, it is It, but the 2017 version. I do love the cast of the kids. They're just great, and I think they made this movie. Another classic, which is another great cast, is The Goonies. Kids go hunting for a lost treasure. Can't go wrong with that. A series that started on YouTube and is now on Amazon Prime, and I think Hulu too, is BuzzFeed Unsolved. It's basically 2 guys go around trying to figure out if these ghost stories are true and see if these places are actually haunted or not. And lastly is Ted Bundy falling for a killer. So Ted Bundy is a serial killer, and it's basically just how women were falling for him because that is how he lured his victims. Next streaming platform is Hulu. So on Hulu, I have never watched this, but I want to watch it because the cast is absolutely insane, and if I'm not mistaken, Nick Jonas is in it. It is Scream Queens. I think Ariana Grande's in it too. Either way, just the cast alone, I was like, okay, I need to check this out. There's a Hulu original called Little Monsters, where it's basically a teacher protecting her school children from monsters. So I was like, oh, that sounds like an interesting plot. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, I think they were zombies, but still. Next is Hotel Transylvania. Believe it or not, I actually have not seen this, so cannot go wrong with a solid cartoon. There's a show called Castle Rock that I definitely want to check out. It is pretty much based on Stephen King's novels. Stephen King is one of those guys that like, I can appreciate him for being really good at horror, so I slowly inch my way towards his stuff because I've read some of his books and I'm like, okay, these are pretty solid, but like once you give me a visual, I do get a little freaked out, so I slowly inch myself into this. So if I'm gonna do horror, it's probably gonna be Stephen King. If you've heard of The Haunting of Hill House, so there is a movie called The Haunting that is inspired by the same book as The Haunting of Hill House. It's a book by Shirley Jackson. Except this movie, The Haunting, is basically based on like a sleep disorder study. So that seems really interesting. I did watch Haunting of Hill House and I did read the Shirley Jackson book, which is why I want to watch this movie. I'm currently binging this right now because I love this show so much. It's Sabrina the Teenage Witch, classic 90s sitcom. Love it so much. This one seemed interesting. It's called The Resort. It's basically about an abandoned resort in Hawaii, and I was like, spooks in Hawaii? I'm in. Of course, I gotta throw in Teen Wolf. What a beautiful series, and what better time to start watching it now than like right before the reunion. They said they're gonna come back and make like another season, another movie. Whether that actually happens or not, I don't know, but Teen Wolf is still a great and solid watch. My Friend Dahmer is another great watch. It is basically how Jeffrey Dahmer became Jeffrey Dahmer. I also made a video on him for my Zodiac serial killers, so definitely go check that out too. A classic, Edward Scissorhands, and another one would be The Addams Family, but the cartoon version. I think that came out in like 2019, 2018, something like that. I haven't seen this one, but I really want to. It is called Salem, and it's basically about like the most powerful witch sorceress in all of Salem and like her story, so that seems really interesting. There's a show called Wayward Pines that's also on my list. It's basically two agents go missing in this weird town and another agent tries to find them. With Wayward Pines, there's also another similar one, which is Twin Peaks, except this time it's like the homecoming queen gets killed in a very weird small town. Some more classics include The Twilight Zone, which is what inspired the Tower of Terror and Disney's Hollywood Studios, and another classic is also The Hardy Boys, which is like the boy equivalent to Nancy Drew. This seemed really interesting. I don't know if this is a show or a movie right now off the top of my head. It's on my list anyways. It's called Tragedy Girls. It's basically about these girls that report murders happening, but they're the ones committing the murders. So I was like, oh, that's new. One of my favorite shows is Veronica Mars. There's also a movie. It's basically just like this girl who her father's a great detective and she just becomes a detective herself and she just solves all these unsolvable cases, and it's just, I love this show so much. I haven't seen this, but I do want to see it. It is Killer in Plain Sight. So it's like killers that have like inserted themselves into investigations and they're like right there and they're just hiding in plain sight. Hannibal, which is about a psychiatrist turned into a killer. So okay, it's basically like Spencer Reid gone rogue. That's what I thought of. There's also Cold Case Files I would like to watch and Unusual Suspects I'd like to watch, which is just like a tip that changes the whole investigation and it was just an unusual suspect. Next platform is HBO Max, and of course I'm going to start with the obvious, all Harry Potter movies. My favorites are definitely the Deathly Hallows, so 7 and 8. I haven't seen this yet, but I would definitely like to. It is Birds of Prey. It is the Harley Quinn movie. It's basically just like all about her, no Suicide Squad, nothing about the Joker. It's about Harley and Harley only, so that seems fun. This one caught my eye. It's called The Little Things, which is about two cops hunting down a serial killer, and it's a thriller, and apparently it is an Oscar award winning one, and the cast looks pretty good too. Another one that caught my eye is one called The Murders at White House Farm. Basically a whole family gets murdered and everyone is set on like this is what happened, and one detective is like, no, that's not what happened. It looked a little bit scary, but like I'm in. Crimes of the Century, which is basically just like the most shocking and impacting crimes of the century. This one definitely caught my eye because it's the name of a show on Netflix that is on my list that I really enjoy, but it's something completely different. It is called Mindhunters. This is a thriller and it's about FBI agents that are training on a remote island, but one of them is a killer. There's The Witches of Eastwick, which is just three witches looking to fall in love. A classic is Corpse Bride. I think this is probably like my favorite Tim Burton movie. Some more classics include Kiki's Delivery Service, Nancy Drew, which by the way, Nancy Drew, there's like so much content on her. My favorite is The CW Show, which you could watch on the CW. I love that show so much. The movie with Emma Roberts is really good too. Another classic monster scary movie is The Blob from the 1950s. Definitely on my list to watch. The Brothers Grimm, which basically like the Grimm brothers are what inspired the fairy tales like Cinderella and Snow White and all those, so this definitely caught my eye. Another classic is The Mummy from the 1930s. Of course, Scooby-Doo, like I mean no brainer. I will watch Scooby-Doo any time of the year, especially during spooky season. And the last one that caught my eye is My Best Friend is a Vampire, which is basically a dude gets seduced by a vampire in high school, and I was like, okay, sounds like My Babysitter is a Vampire, which is on Netflix, and that's great too. So next streaming service is Netflix. The first one I have is Clickbait. Clickbait is a small docu-series. It's basically about a guy being framed for murder and how he was killed because they think he committed a murder. Some really cute, funny Halloween movies I recommend are Paranorman, which is a cartoon style, and Hubie Halloween, which is Adam Sandler. So those are both really cute and funny. It's not spooky season if you're not watching Twilight or The Vampire Diaries. I mean, out of the two, I'm definitely gonna choose Vampire Diaries, but I feel like Twilight now, you just watch it for like the parody and the meme of it. So if you want to do both, go for both. But actually, wait, pause. If you're watching this, I want to know, are you team Stefan or are you team Damon? I feel like a girl's team Damon, but of course on this list is The Haunting of Hill House. I mentioned that before. And then with The Haunting of Hill House is The Haunting of Bly Manor, which I have not seen yet. It's based on a book that I read called Turn of the Screw, so that's why I would like to watch it. And the same creator of those two shows has also created a new one called Midnight Mass. This one is not at all like the 90s sitcom, but it's still a really great watch, and that is Sabrina. Sabrina the Teenage Witch, but a lot darker, and she's basically the daughter of the devil. I haven't seen the show yet, but I've been told to watch it, and it's definitely on my list. That is supernatural. Two guys, you know, dabbling in the supernatural. This show is very ridiculous. It reminds me of Punk'd. It is called Prank Encounters, and it's the actor that plays Dustin from Stranger Things hosting like these prank wars. This one caught my eye because it's Jake Gyllenhaal, and any thriller with Jake Gyllenhaal I think is just amazing. It's called Nocturnal Animals. It's basically a woman who is haunted by her missing first husband's manuscript. An obvious classic is Goosebumps, and also My Babysitter's a Vampire. There's a movie and a TV show. Some series include Lock and Key. I really did enjoy this show. I didn't think I would, but I actually ended up loving it. Another one is The Order. The Order is really freaking good too. Just finished binging this one. So glad Netflix picked it up. Manifest. I think Manifest is such a great show, and it is very, very interesting and gives me Lost vibes. There's apparently a Netflix series on Dracula, so that's definitely on my list. There's another movie called Little Monsters you can find on Netflix, and it's basically a kid that befriends the boogeyman. An obvious one is Stranger Things. There's also Unsolved Mysteries, which is, you guessed it, Unsolved Mysteries. I really want to watch A Babysitter's Guide to Monster Hunting, which is basically the boogeyman kidnaps the kid the babysitter is watching. This show I have mixed feelings about. It is You. It's very suspenseful, it's very thrilling, it's very twisted and messed up. I can't decide if I hate the main character or not, but still a pretty solid watch. These two shows are very obvious. I mentioned one before. It is Mindhunter. This one kind of reminds me of like how Criminal Minds was formed, even though they have nothing to do with Criminal Minds, which by the way, that is the last show I'm recommending. Criminal Minds is my absolute most favorite show in the world. I love it so much. It's basically FBI agents, but they're part of the BAU, which is the Behavioral Analysis Unit, so they deal with like the mind of a serial killer, and that is basically Mindhunters. Mindhunters is how they created the BAU, so I love both shows so much. And the rest of the seasons of Criminal Minds, because they don't have the last 3 seasons, can be found on Hulu. And of course, my last streaming service is Disney+. This is gonna have a lot of classic Halloween movies, TV shows that I don't think they need an explanation, so this was probably gonna be the quickest one. But the first one is Cruella. This is the live action with Emma Stone. This one was a really good one, very surprising, and I thought it was just beautiful and amazing. The classics, Haunted Mansion, Hocus Pocus, Nightmare Before Christmas, and all 4 Halloween Town movies, even though they did our girl Marnie so wrong and replaced her in the last film and really thought we wouldn't notice. There's also Frankie Weenie, and there is also Twitches 1 and 2. Some other like DCOM classics, like I'm talking when we were kids, well I don't know about y'all, when I was a kid, that's Mom's Got a Date with a Vampire, Don't Look Under the Bed, and Phantom of the Megaplex. This one I haven't watched, but it is on my list. It's Mr. Boogedy, which is basically a family moves into a haunted house. This one caught my eye. It's called So Weird. It's from the 90s. It's basically a girl's on a rock tour, but she's investigating the supernatural. So I was like, that sounds so weird, but I'm in. Literally so weird. One of my favorite shows that I actually started rewatching recently again, it is Once Upon a Time. It's basically what happens if you take fairy tale characters and put them into our world. So I love it so much. Some more great movies are Angelina Jolie and Maleficent. Those movies are absolutely incredible. They are live action, but super great live actions. There is Into the Woods with one of my favorite men ever, Chris Pine. It's basically this couple that's trying to have a baby and they're trying to undo this witch's curse. I haven't seen it, but definitely on my list. Another one that's on my list is The Secrets of Sulfur Springs. From my understanding, it's about this boy that moves to a new town and his house is haunted by a girl that went missing like 30 years ago, and he has to travel back in time to like solve something. So I was like, okay, I mean, I'm in, y'all. I'm in for all of this. There's also Descendants, all the movies. There's Wizards of Waverly Place, of course. There's also a Mickey Mouse like spooky spectacular that I saw, so I was like, it's Mickey. You can't go wrong with Mickey and Disney. And of course, there are all the classic Halloween episodes like Lizzie McGuire, Hannah Montana, That's So Raven, Kim Possible, Wizards of Waverly Place, and Disney has a whole section. A lot of these apps actually have a whole Halloween section. These are just the ones I picked and chose from them that I really enjoyed or I really want to watch. watch. So I hope you guys enjoyed this Halloween watch list. If you have any recommendations, please make sure to comment them down below. And if you enjoyed this, of course, give us a thumbs up. I actually sadly do not have a shout out of the day today because Instagram is down and I could not pull someone up for shout out of the day. So thanks, Instagram. Not my fault this time. But anyways, if you would like to be shout out of the day, follow me on my Instagram when it's up and working, and definitely make sure to stay active. But if you'd like to see more, I will be uploading spooky videos all month long, and in the meantime you can go binge my other spooky videos on my channel, including my Zodiac Serial Killers series and also just my Fright Night series from last year and all my other spooky videos. There should be just a whole playlist on my channel you can binge. I'm also sorry you had to deal with my sick voice today, but I'm very glad that we pushed through and I was able to actually film this video because your girl's feeling a little bit crusty. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Have fun binging. I'm definitely gonna have lots of fun, and I will see you guys next time. Oh, wait a second. Comment of the day if you made it this far. Let's say vampire. That's the comment of the day. But anyways, bye guys.